Hello guys, welcome to my new video, and today we'll be doing or continuing a series that I decided to do back in BF8. Remember the video where I tried to get like plus 20 keys on every single healer, and I wanted to document my journey in terms of poking Mythic Plus, in terms of playing the class, in terms of the good, the bad. I'm kind of going to revive that kind of video playlist, and I'm going to start off with Resto Shamans first, and then I'm going to try and get, you know, Keystone Master on other healers, Druid, and guys, leave a comment below on which healer I should do. I'm going with Resto Shaman, Resto Druid, and then after that, it's up to you. What healer should I try to get that Keystone Master and do a video in terms of documenting my journey? Leave a comments below, and if you like the video, please subscribe. It helps me to continue with it, but let's go and have a look at Resto Shaman. And is it worth to invest your time to play this healer? So right off the bat, I want to talk about community perception, then we'll talk about Mythic Plus, we'll talk about raids, and we'll talk about the fun aspect of my adventure. So first of all, community perception. Not a lot of people like it. I don't really enjoy how the community perception drives your invites, but because I am pugging, I know a lot of you out there are doing Mythic Plus keys. They don't have a team. You don't have enough time to organize it. So picking a healer that's gonna get you an invite, or at least not gonna struggle too much, for a lot of people is very, very important. So Resto Shaman, in terms of healers, in terms of community perception, is probably the best one out there. There's a lot of reasons why Resto Shamans, there's your favorite streamers swapping from their characters and going to Resto Shaman. Resto Shaman is an excellent position right now in terms of 15 and up, in terms of keys right now. By looking at statistics, Resto Shaman is one of the top pushers. It's one of the most popular healers in Mythic rating, Heroic rating, and things like that. Again, we're looking at HPS. HPS means nothing if you're doing Mythic rating, and looking at the utility the Resto Shaman provides in terms of you have Windrush Totem, you have Spirit Link, you have Healing Tide Totem, you have APT Ancestral Protection Totem. On top of that, you have a comparable HPS. You could have Resto Shaman sitting here, worse than this actually, and still be one of the best raid healers because of the utility they provide. Look at the parses that they have. There's 76,000 Resto Shaman parses here, compared to the next most popular healer is a Paladin. And then Mistweaver, you might see topping meters, but there's barely anyone playing Mistweaver, and there's very, 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 very few people who actually kill the last bosses with those healers. You can see here for Sire, we're looking at Paladin, Shamans, and Discipline Priests. So this is where the community perception starts to come in. Are you gonna get an invite? Again, these are mythic logs, they don't really mean a lot if you're not gonna be pushing mythics, but again, community perception, I don't like it, but it's there. So, before we're gonna go into the gameplay of Mythic Plus and raids, I also want to talk about Covenants. A lot of people who are going to be re-rolling to Resto Shaman, I do feel that there's two Covenants that are really popular, and it's probably one of the most asked questions that I get. If you're a Necrolord, I feel you're in a really good position right now. You have unlocked Emny, you have double potency conjurants. You have to admit that Lead by Example is probably one of the best group soul binds to some extent, because it's going to give you primary stats to you and 4 people around you. Again, the range is relatively small, but generally speaking, if you have double potency conjurant, if you're running Tumbling Waves and you get resets, your Lead by Example is not only going to contribute towards your success, but it's going to contribute towards your group success. So Necrolord, Primordial Wave, Lead by Example, Emny is very, very solid choices, and you should have that unlocked around this time. If you're running, again, another popular Conduit or Covenant choice is going to be Ventier with things like Chain Harvest, and honestly Draven is going to be unlocked pretty soon. So if you're watching this video, it might be unlocked already depending on what time you're doing it. Hold Your Ground is one of the best soulbind options you can actually get in the game right now in terms of pure personal performance. So that's probably going to be the way that a lot of Resto Shamans are gonna go. So that's a little bit info in terms of Conduits and Covenant choices. Primordial Wave, Necrolord is very, very popular. Probably more popular in raids, but still very comparable in Mythic Plus as well. And Ventier is another really good option for Resto Shamans. Now, in terms of gameplay for Resto Shaman and Mythic Plus, honestly, it's probably one of the easiest healers to get your base rotation down. The base rotation is very, very, very simplistic. It's using Riptide, it's using Healing Surges. It's making sure that when you get your tidal waves by using Riptide, you're going to consume them by using Healing Surge. It is literally probably the most simplistic Mythic Plus rotation out of all the healers. And because of Resto Shaman pure throughput, it is very, very solid. So if you're a beginner healer that's looking to do well in Mythic Plus, I think Resto Shaman might be the #1 option for you. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of finessing in terms of using your Cloudburst Totem, in terms of topping up people, in terms of optimizing, you know, things like Urge Shield. The difficulty of Resto Shaman comes in with the amount of utility spells you have, and oh boy, you have a lot of utility spells. from your slow totem, from your AoE stun totem, from a lot of the purges, a lot of the, how do I say it, Jung Spiteful. You probably have the best ability ever in terms of your root, in terms of your Earth Grab totem. Honestly, it's insanely strong. The thing that separates Resto Shaman in Mythic Plus from every other healer, in my honest opinion, is going to be interrupt. You have an insanely good ranged 12-second interrupt that is going to save so many situations. Like for example, if you're doing Spires of Ascension as the Resto Shaman, you can solo the Goliath. You can do all the interrupts for them, and you can let your group focus on other people. If you're playing Resto Shaman right now, think of it in this way. Very simplistic healing playstyle in Mythic Plus with, again, very easy rotation, but you have so many buttons to press and you have to determine which is going to be the right time to do it. The interrupt is what separates Resto Shaman in my honest opinion, and if you never use the interrupt as a Resto Shaman, I think you're really misutilizing one of the best Mythic Plus classes right now. Besides that, the way to deal with Prideful is really good if people are stacking their healing rain. Honestly, a super solid option in Mythic Plus. So let's go have a look at Resto Shaman in raids. And honestly, the playstyle has changed a lot from BFA. If you played in BFA, you would notice that Resto Shaman has resulted into this high tide talent and chain heal spam. You would avoid all of these. You know, for example, you didn't care about tidal waves. You don't really care about tidal waves right now, but generally speaking, before you would just spam chain heal all the time and that was it. A lot of the times it was just making sure you had a healing rain down, you had a cloud burst and chain heal all the way, use Unleash Life on cooldown. That has kind of disappeared. You no longer will be spamming chain heal because it's relatively expensive and your mana cannot sustain that. All of a sudden you become a bit more of this triage healer where you would be doing a lot of your single target healing abilities while maintaining your spells, your AoE spells. Like majority of your AoE healing is coming from healing rain and Wellsprings, and maybe to some extent cloud burst if you time it properly. So a lot of the times the rotation is very, how do I say it, it's kind of priority based, bread and butter type of deal. Keep healing rain down, use Riptide on cooldown. Riptide has become such a potent spell because it was both the initial heal and everything was buffed around it. Riptide almost feels like a mini, to some extent, you're gonna see the impact of Riptide. In BFA you didn't really, but now you do. So all of a sudden Riptide becomes something that you use on cooldown, you maintain your healing rain, you maintain your cloud burst. Again, cloud burst is very important. You use your things like Primordial Wave. Primordial Wave is going to add a lot of difficulty if you use Unleash Life. A lot of people really want to eliminate the rotationals or make a simplistic version of it so they don't pick Unleash Life and they go with something else. Which again, if you can maintain and if you can really prioritize Unleash Life in a meaningful way, it's going to be the way to go, both in raids, especially in raids, but also in Mythic Plus. But if you really feel like it's too overwhelming, you can kind of take it out and not use it. So people have done this in raid situations where you see a lot of logs using torrents. So that is a thing. A lot of the times, like I mentioned, the rotation is going to be using Riptide, using Healing Rain, and besides that, making sure you optimize your Cloud Burst and using Wellsprings. Wellsprings has become the go-to in raid situations. As long as you do some, again, Unleash Life if you use it, keep that in mind. So the rotation is a lot more difficult, but it's not going to be around chain heal spam. You're still provide an insane amount of utility with the incredible totems that you have. There is a lot of single target bursts on fights like Sun King. So overall, Resto Shaman, think of it in a way that it is a utility healer, but it's providing a ton of healing because majority of the fights, or at least over 50% of the fights in Castle Natri, are going to provide a substantial amount of stacking, which means the Resto Shamans are going to be very much needed in terms of the pure throughput. So this is going to be like the prediction section of the video. Do I feel Resto Shamans a good investment to play them right now? How are they going to deal in Season 2? Are they going to be good in the new raid? Again, I have no idea. This is all predictions at this point. I don't think Blizzard is going to nerf Resto Shamans, but if they do, I hope they're not going to over-nerf them. I don't think Resto Shamans are like completely overpowered. I do feel that the preferential choice from the community is going towards Resto Shaman, but that doesn't mean that they're incredibly overpowered. You can still have very good time with a bunch of other healing specs at the moment. Do I feel Resto Shamans are going to be strong in the next patch? I think they will be. I think in raid, nothing's going to change. Even if Resto Shaman throughput is going to be significantly reduced, I think their utility is so strong that they're still going to have a good usage in raids. But again, this is all predictions. In terms of my experiences doing this challenge, getting this plus 15, because Resto Shaman is my main, it was very easy to get into the groups. It was very easy to heal. The fact that I had Interrupt, again guys, I'm gonna say this multiple times. Interrupt is so strong in Mythic Plus. is so strong in Shadowlands, where mobs, maybe even 2 mobs, need 4 interrupts in order to optimize that pull. Having Resto Shaman as a backup or an option is insanely strong. I really recommend people who are looking to play Resto Shaman, if you're looking to play in an organized group or solo queue or whatever, make sure you're gonna utilize that interrupt button. Make sure you know which mobs need to be interrupted, because there is definitely a high priority in Mythic Plus dungeons in terms of what mob is gonna one-shot, not one-shot, but really inflict significant pain upon the group if you don't interrupt that cast. And I think that's the main thing that separates Resto Shaman from every other healer. I play a lot of healing specs, and honestly, I always look back for that interrupt. When I play my Disc Priest, my Resto Druid, I always wish I had that interrupt. I do feel that a lot of the times in solo or poke situations that the interrupt priority goes out the window in terms of, I don't know, with a player. So as a healer, I always try to make sure I interrupt the right person, or try to use interrupt. So I think that's a huge deal. Would I recommend Resto Shaman to new people or players who are coming into World of Warcraft and they're hoping to play a meta class or whatever? I think Resto Shaman is a really fun healer right now. I think the power of it is really strong. Community perception is really strong. In PvP, it might be a bit more difficult, because I think Resto Shaman is pretty mid-tier in terms of arenas and rated BGs. The reason I include rated BGs is because it's one of the best ways to gear up your character. So Resto Shaman might not be the top in PvP, but it's actually pretty much close to the very top in both raids and Mythic Plus. The fact that you can carry your group with interrupts in Mythic Plus, the fact that you provide about 4 or 5 incredible utility spells in raids will probably guarantee you a spot no matter what content you decide to do. And if you like a healer that genuinely has a simplistic rotation in Mythic Plus and in raids, honestly, it is not too difficult to prioritize or optimize Resto Shaman. There is a skill ceiling attached in terms of Cloudburst and things like that, and a lot of your spells might feel really long in terms of the casting speed. If you kind of like that playstyle, I think Resto Shaman is the way to go. And honestly, my experiences in terms of getting the challenge done has been very good. So a big recommend on Resto Shaman.